Before industrial bakeries, the traditional farmhouse baking oven was once as essential as the roof above it. Every farm had one. Every family relied on it. Bread wasn't bought, it was produced in bulk every few weeks from a structure built into the very fabric of the farm. If done correctly, the traditional farmhouse baking oven will still be standing in 100 years. The materials are simple: brick, lime mortar, sand. But the knowledge required to assemble them properly is anything but. Today, new baking ovens are rarely built. The knowledge of how to construct one properly has quietly faded. Passed down not through schools or manuals, but from master to apprentice, generation to generation. In South Tyrol's Ahrntal valley, a craftsman still builds these ovens today, keeping alive a tradition that has largely been lost. But what made these ovens work so well? And why is building one correctly so much harder than it looks? Josef Niederkoffler, known simply as Sebi, will tell you he's a mason, and technically that's true. He has spent his life building walls, laying stone, mixing mortar. But Sebi can do something most masons cannot. He can build an oven that actually draws, that breathes, that holds heat the way it must. He learned the craft from an old master named Platter, and everything Platter taught him, every proportion, every trick, Sebi now carries in his hands. No blueprints, no measurements written down, just decades of accumulated instinct. It begins with a question of capacity. How many loaves must the oven hold? For around 50 to 60 loaves, the outer dimensions are roughly 3 meters long, 2 meters wide, and about 50 centimeters tall at the center. These numbers aren't arbitrary. They're the result of generations of refinement. The base is built first, a solid table of standard full bricks on which the baking chamber will rest. The floor surface must be completely smooth, no protruding edges, no uneven joints, because this is where the bread will sit, and any imperfection will mark every loaf that touches it. The shape of the oven floor is not rectangular, it is pear-shaped, wider at the back, narrowing toward the opening. This was Platter's instruction, and Sebi still follows it precisely. The reason is physics. The back of the oven must sit roughly 40 centimeters deep and rise about 10 centimeters from rear to front. This subtle incline is what allows the oven to draw correctly, pulling heat forward through the flue channels and up toward the chimney. If the angle is wrong, the oven won't draw. If the vault is too flat, heat escapes. If the mortar contains cement, even a small amount, the structure becomes too rigid and will eventually crack under heat cycles. The mortar here is sand, hydraulic lime and slaked lime only. A mixture tested not in a laboratory, but over lifetimes of use.
Und das ist sehr wichtig, nicht?
Dann machen wir es ein bisschen weiter innen, nicht?
Ja, also ein bisschen
Ja, wie wir es
halbwegs.
so gehabt haben.
Also ungefähr,
So,
nicht? Schön.
Ja.
Ja, tun wir mal.
Den da drauf.
So,
So.
drauf, ja. Ein bisschen höher.
So wie.
So ungefähr, nicht?
So drauf, nicht?
Ja, ja, also
Den,
so kommt man mal da
kommt da der
drunter.
Kanal das um. Ja, ja.
Gut. Ein bisschen Wasser heute.
The vault goes up in a single session. Rather than building a timber formwork, which would take time and cost money, Sebi uses a form made from sawdust and water, pressed into the exact pear shape of the oven interior. Cheap, simple, precise, brick by brick the dome rises. Each piece gets shorter as the curve tightens. The center of the vault must align exactly with the highest point of the dome. Even a small error in positioning here will show, and cannot easily be corrected. When the last stone is set, the arch is complete. The form still holds everything in place, and will for the next 24 hours, until the mortar cures enough to stand on its own. By the mid-20th century, electric ovens and industrial bread had made all of this seem unnecessary. Farmhands left, farms shrank, old ovens fell apart and were never replaced. Today, only a handful of craftsmen in this region still know how to build one from scratch, and when they're gone, The knowledge goes with them, unless someone is paying close enough attention. What separates a functional oven from a masterful one is invisible from the outside. The flue channels must slope slightly upward toward the chimney. If they don't, heat stalls. 2 small doors at the end of the channels must seal completely. If they leak, every bake loses heat. The chimney must be offset to one side, not centred, otherwise the roof carpenters can't set the ridge beam. None of this is written anywhere. It is known. And this oven isn't just a technical object. For the farming family who commissioned it, it represents a return to something, a rhythm of life that industrial convenience had interrupted. Every 2 months the family gathers. Dough prepared 2 days in advance, 45 logs burned down, the ash swept out. A damp cloth dragged quickly across the hot floor to preserve every degree of warmth. Then the loaves go in, and the farmhouse fills with something it hadn't smelled in years. Long before thermostat-controlled ovens and factory bread, warmth was a precise craft. The shape of a vault, the angle of a flue, the composition of a mortar, these were not decorative choices. They were structural decisions made by people who understood that heat, like water, follows the path you give it. Sebi is satisfied with the result. The oven draws cleanly. The first bake is a success, and somewhere in that outcome is a quiet proof that precision, passed from hand to hand across generations, still holds.
Brotteig, ein Dampfel, und das macht man 2 Tage vorher. Und dann kommt das Mehl hinein, die Masse, und Salz nimmt man, warmes Wasser und nach Geschmack dann die Gewürze.
These systems shaped daily life for centuries, not loudly, but steadily. If you'd like to see more of them documented before they disappear, consider subscribing. And tell us, which forgotten craft should we uncover next?